time to go back to the beginning and do it all over again on Overview with Asteroid G. You're listening to Not So Live from Asteroid G, voted #1 podcast on Asteroid G by people who update Asteroid G. I'm your host, Mike Finkelstein. Joining me in the booth today is...
Josh Schaefer.
Queen Bee.
And Rebecca Finkelstein.
And today we are going to be talking about Community, which, as we were just discussing off the microphone, although we didn't plan this to be at all topical in any way, shape, or form, Community is back in people's minds for at least a little bit because Netflix has decided to remove one of the episodes of Community from their streaming service, as did Hulu, actually, in fact. And that particular one was Advanced Dungeons & Dragons, one of the best episodes in the entire Community back catalog.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And they did it because, Josh?
Because Professor, or I guess I should say Senior Chang at this time in the story, right?
Yeah.
He was wearing a drow cosplay. And for people unfamiliar with the drow elvish characters from the Dungeons & Dragons world, they are jet black with white hair.
And he did paint himself head to toe jet black.
Yep.
It was impressive.
It was very impressive makeup. Obvious, really awful grease paint that he was wearing for that.
Oh, that didn't come off easily, I'm sure.
Oh, no. And I mean, even the show even calls them out on it and how, offensive it could be taken. So,
yeah.
It's really weird that they decided to single out that episode for it, I guess, because of the way the show handled it within its own storyline.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it was completely it sounds like to me anyway, a Netflix issue. And
Hulu.
In Hulu. And, I hate to use the term virtue signaling, but, no one asked for it. No one was, as far as I know anyway, no one was offended by it. I have friends who cross the racial, cultural divide who all love it. And I'm kind of confused personally by it, and I don't see a lot of people arming themselves into the streets asking Netflix to remove that episode.
Well, it's especially weird removing that episode because they reference it again a couple times. So if you're watching the entire run, you're sitting there going, what are they talking about?
I'm glad I watched the entire run before they removed it.
Oh, I have it on
DVD.
DVD.
One of my favorite episodes too.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was a great episode because you kind of have an acceptance into nerd culture. It was great for anti-bullying. It was great for just suicide awareness. It had great storytelling too, because I can't think of another episode that perfectly encapsulates everybody's personalities in the show.
Yeah.
So.
And it's just a really funny episode.
Oh, it's great.
Yeah. So.
I was just gonna say, I just feel like now people have this kind of high awareness of things and they're more apt to overreact to try to be a just in case thing as opposed to actually thinking about it. And it's just come on, guys. Okay, in regards to cosplay, it's the whole thing of okay, so how is someone going to cosplay a drow and not drow? I'm not a nerd, I don't know. Not at least not that type. But anyway, how is someone going to not? What are they gonna do? Get one of those weird ass leotard things that cover your entire body?
Yeah. Well,
and then you look like the human being from Community.
Yeah,
it's it's
weird.
It's not blackface if you're not trying to make yourself black. You're making yourself a drow. It's totally different.
On the cosplay side of things, a lot of people in the cosplay community would shy away from that just because if you just saw somebody in that outfit, and you didn't have a pre-knowledge of that character, it might be taken offensively. So I think people avoid it, but I don't disagree. If you're in a D&D campaign or something, or a LARP, I personally don't see an issue with dressing as a mythical creature that happens to have black skin.
Yeah, and I mean, I can see how it looks similar, like very similar, things stand out and such, but...
The white hair, I think, would be a dead giveaway. But like blackface was, like, the reason why it's an issue is because it was used to mock, slaves and black people a long time ago, and...
Media is trying to find a way to express their feelings, supportive feelings for the Black Lives Matter movement, so that by doing this, all media is removing things that support slavery in any type, any shape, even overreaction for this particular episode. If you have ever actually watched Community, which all of us have, they do mention racism quite a bit throughout their episodes, like the character that Chevy Chase played, Pierce Hawthorne, extremely racist. In fact, saying ridiculous things constantly. And he was also bigoted against religion and other things, and which is kind of funny since his religion was so very specific to a not a formal religion.
Cult.
So, yeah, exactly. So, I mean, the entire show kind of focuses their laser beams on racism in a community, and they point it out as constantly as possible. So,
yeah, I mean,
it's not surprising to me that Netflix removed the episode, but it is unfortunate because you're right; it is one of the better episodes.
Yeah. So, I mean, I feel like since he had such a minor role in that too, they could have easily edited that scene out. But
I think they're ignoring the context of what was going on and simply taking an easy shot at quote unquote getting rid of blackface, which is within the episode. I mean, the two black characters that are sitting at the table are like, "Are we just going to ignore this hate crime?" Like, like they call it out immediately. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
No, I mean,
it's a media thing. They're trying to show their support by overreacting. So, I mean, HBO Max did it with Gone with the Wind, which is completely understandable. Don't get me wrong.
That film's completely
racist.
Yeah. Well, they're bringing it back. They're just going to do what Disney did and put a little sting in front of it that's like, "Hey, just so you know, this is a product of its times."
When are they going to do that with Song of the South?
Well, with Song of the South, the entire flume ride at their parks is being redone to match
Princess and the Frog.
Yeah, the Princess and the Frog.
Which
wrong call, Disney. I would have thought Tangled would have been a better one. We already talked about that.
I do want to point out an interesting thing, though. People talk about the Splash Mountain and the fact that it's getting reskinned and everything. It's like, well, it was from a period when the attitudes were different. One, the people who worked at the studio at the time Song of the South came out were like, we're going to get flack for this. Yeah, like in the 1940s. And two, that ride came out in 1989.
Did it really?
Yes.
Whoops.
Another note about racism within the show Community, or actually actors leaving, was because Donald Glover, although he left the show to quote unquote improve his career because it was starting to take off with his Gambino thing.
Gambino.
Yes. But also on the back half of that, Chevy Chase was apparently very racist to him in some way or another outside of his character.
Yeah.
And that caused a kerfuffle within the show cast. So.
Which surprised nobody.
No. You don't play a character that good at being racist without having a little of it yourself. Like, there was no like softening that character when he played it. He played it straight.
Yeah, he did.
So let's go and actually do our overview of this, which we kind of got like pulled away because of current events. But it's important that we actually go and discuss Community like we planned to. And the show, when it came out, 2009, was... I know, right?
Long.
I know,
Man.
right? Like, it started off seemingly like just this kind of like community college little sitcom of this group of misfits who come together and they have a study group and their teacher's a little insane and the school's a little insane. but it didn't seem like it was going to be like this weird, wacky meta comedy. And like for the first 3, 4, 5 episodes, it's pretty straight and standard. It really seems like it's kind of a Sam and Diane between Jeff Winger and Britta, and that's going to be the overarching story of the show before like eventually it just kind of takes a bend and wanders radically in first season and becomes the show basically everyone knows from like that point forward.
Mm-hmm. So. Yeah, I mean, because at that point, like the only weird thing you had, Abed was weird, but in a like Asperger's kind of way. So it was kind of like, but then you had Senior Chang, who was right off the bat weird as hell. But then you had like the ancillary characters kind of get introduced, like the dean, and I think everyone started kind of carving out their own sections of the group, which kind of helped foster like I think like everyone can kind of identify someone they can relate to in the study group, you know. So
disappointed because I did go to community college for my associate's degree, and it was nothing like community.
Oh no, I went to community college for a little bit too, and the worst thing that happened was some dude stood up and said, "I got a shit on the table," while everyone was eating lunch.
See, you at least had excitement. I had no excitement whatsoever. That's sad, and I'm sorry for that experience for you.
I was just like,
but my community college had nothing to do with anything that this show showed. I was a little disappointed in my community college, to be honest.
I would love to go to Greendale. I mean, I know it gets a lot of flack, but like some of those classes sound pretty cool, like the ladders class.
In the later seasons?
Yeah.
Well, that was when the show got pretty ridiculous. It's like the first half of first season is pretty normal. Then you get to investigative journalism, and that's the one where Buddy shows up, played by Jack Black. Yeah. And that was kind of some stunt casting right there. But it wasn't really until you got into late in the season, beginner pottery, when they start making ghost references. Contemporary American poultry is really the one that was the tipping point when they did the Goodfellas kind of style telling from Abed's perspective, where they're selling chicken fingers. And then, of course, Modern Warfare, which is the paintball episode. And, like, those ones right there really kind of set the tone where for Community was going to become, because it was, you know, again, the chicken finger episode is all about Goodfellas, and Modern Warfare is kind of this action movie, die-hard pastiche over paintball. And people loved those episodes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for good reason. I mean, the paintball episode was phenomenal.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. And probably took them a long time to reset the sets after they did that one, too, because everything had to be repainted.
Well, they even kind of tongue-in-cheek did that in, was it after the second paintball episode, where the custodian's mopping up and Abed's just talking to him?
Yeah.
About what he's going to do over the summer. He's like, what are you going to do this summer? Abed.
Clean up paint.
Yeah, Abed and Troy are my favorites in the entire show.
As they should be.
But yeah, it's interesting going and looking back at season 1 after watching all the way through up to season 6, because the show, despite having the same characters and the same kind of like basic humor with, you know, meta references, but not like really parodying yet, feels kind of different.
I think it kind of evolves into the bizarre after every season.
Yeah, its second season introduces the new class they're taking. They go from taking Spanish to taking anthropology. And then, Betty White shows up, and she's the teacher for one episode before, like, drugging someone, and is ripped out of the show. And they give it to John Oliver's Professor Duncan, the psychology teacher, who has no clue what he's doing, and the show just kind of wanders from there. Basic rocket science being their Apollo 11 pastiche, which is phenomenal. I love that episode so hard. Oh god, what else?
That's the KFC one, right?
That's the 11 herbs and spices nebula.
Yeah.
Epidemiology, that's the Halloween episode with the zombie outbreak.
Which I would say that's kind of the linchpin for when, I don't want to say it's the jump the shark moment, but that's when the series kind of starts introducing some poor story elements into it.
You didn't like the zombie episode?
No, the zombie episode was great, but I think when the relationship between Ben and Shirley,
oh yeah,
like that whole thing was when, because Chang was like a brilliant kind of neurotic character, and then he just went batshit insane slowly, and then became like just intolerable for 2 or 3 seasons.
2 or 3 seasons, yeah. Then that's true. It's like this is the point where Ben just becomes kind of crazy. Is like starting with that episode. You had cooperative calligraphy, which was their bottle episode that they called out as their bottle episode. Abed's Uncontrollable Christmas, the one done in the Rankin Bass claymation style. And of course, Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, which is the geeky episode where they literally just hang out in the room the entire time playing D&D, and the only nods towards what they're doing are sound effects.
Yep.
They don't try and visualize or anything, which I think is part of what I really like about that episode specifically, is the fact that, you see like a lot of D&D episodes, quote unquote, of things, or people trying to say they're doing role-playing, and you recast the characters in the body of their character, almost the gamer style, and have them like wander around in a fantasy world. But this show was like, no, we're just gonna do it on the cheap, and we're gonna hang out in the study room the whole time. Yeah.
It's literally like everyone has. I mean, we've all played role-playing. I think I've played with every single one of you. Maybe not B, but
no, we have. We've played before.
Okay, I thought we did, but I couldn't remember. Oh yeah, we played Vampire. That's right.
Yep.
But like you always have those people like want someone who gets really into it with the weird voices and may show up in costume, to people who are just like, I just want to hang out and roll the dice, to the people who like try to actively work against the group to just be a dick. So
sorry.
I wasn't thinking about you, Mike.
Mike outed himself.
He was looking inward.
I was.
Like, I see the man in the mirror.
What's funny is that Community really, like a lot of sitcoms that are really good, has basically leaked into other shows. I don't know if any of you watched The Order, which is a new Netflix supernatural show.
No.
Has 2 seasons going on, but they just had a storyline where a teacher received, and he was the bad guy in this episode, received an award, and they panned back to his desk, and he received the award in 2009 as best teacher for Greendale Community College. So nice. It's pretty funny. Yeah. So it really does. You have directors who are really kind of pulling from their catalog, as you would, to put it into other shows to kind of bring awareness to it, which is pretty good.
I would say second season is probably the best the show ever accomplished. Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah, and ending as it did fitfully with a fistful of paintballs and a few paintballs more, although the first half of that, which is a Western parody, I think is better than the second half, which is just another action movie parody.
It was a Star Wars, and they even make reference to that too when Abed's like, oh, we're doing Star Wars now?
Yeah. But it's not a very good Star Wars parody because they didn't have the budget for like a space sequence or anything. It was just them wandering around the building with kind of Star Wars costumes a little.
And it has a redeeming moment for Pierce too, which is few and far between. And probably my favorite line of his in the movie, when he's standing there in the stormtrooper outfit thing, and it's like, wait, who are you? And he's like, your mother's lover. And then he just shoots him. I want to do that in real life someday. Like, maybe not shoot someone, but
with a Nerf gun. I don't know.
Who are you? Your mother's lover. Pop.
But yeah, like I like third season. I think there are parts of third season that are really good, but it's definitely like the emphasis on third season is making Ben Chang into the bad guy, the villain, and the whole storyline of that one, like, not that the first couple seasons really needed storylines, but this one apparently has a storyline of like the battle between Greendale and their air conditioning annex, which is where they make all their actual money.
Which John Goodman is... If it was anyone but John Goodman, I think I would have hated that storyline.
I would have hated it completely. He sells what he gets, but it's not a very good storyline.
No, not at all. Because after he's gone, it just is like, this is stupid now. And then it ended, so it ended with him, thankfully.
Yeah, and I'm looking over the list of what they have as far as, like, interesting episodes or parody episodes or anything, and none of them are really standing out as all that interesting at all.
No. Honestly, after fourth season, I kind of forget what happens, and then after Childish Gambino leaves, I kind of forget even more.
Well, you're getting ahead of us still.
Yeah, I know. It's just
yeah, same. Like once that happened.
Yeah, well, it's because fourth season didn't have the original creator Dan Harmon involved, and for those 13 episodes, it just feels really forced.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I covered this on the review I wrote for this. You have, like, the intro to Felt Surrogacy, which is the puppet episode, but there's no real point to the puppet episode, and nothing is really established. It's like, let's do an episode with puppets, and they kind of forget to, like, introduce anything about it, you know?
So if you get another weird sexual fetish from the dean out of it.
How many of those do we actually need at this point?
Oh my gosh. It's like a
There's never
joke,
enough.
though, yeah. It's like, what's new?
When they started bringing in straight characters instead of comedic characters, I think that's when they started to realize that this isn't as funny as it is with funny characters. I love Paget Brewster. She's in Criminal Minds as another character, and she came in for the last 14 episodes. She came in for the last 13 episodes. She was in an earlier episode as the IT person.
She was. Yep. I noticed that too when I was going through.
Yeah, so I don't think she played it bad, but you can't really bring in a straight character after you've had comedy this entire time and hope that it's going to catch.
Well, yeah,
so
fifth season is like Dan Harmon comes back, and the show kind of has its vibe again. That's when you get like the geothermal escapism is the floor is lava episode. That's kind of like paintball, but not.
Right,
and it's also the episode where Childish Gambino leaves. And then you have G.I. Jeff, which is the G.I. Joe episode. That's pretty good. Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, a sequel to the episode they removed from Netflix and Hulu just recently, it's an okay episode. I don't think it's as strong as the original Dungeons and Dragons episode, but going back and watching a second time, I didn't hate it. None of these episodes stand out as well as some of the second season episodes they're kind of like playing off of, but they're pretty solid. But at sixth season, the show kind of runs out of steam again, where they're sitting there going, we don't really know what to do with this. We don't really have an idea of what's going on. Oh, the other episode from season 5 that I like, App Development and Condiments. That's the Meow Meow Beans that becomes a parody of Zardoz. Like, who parodies Zardoz? That's a terrible Sean Connery movie. But
it may have been Zardoz, but it's more recent to a Black Mirror episode too.
Oh, I'm sure. References to everything. But sixth season is definitely like one of the weak. It's almost as weak as season 4. It's just there's not a lot going on in it. It kind of feels like again the show ran out of steam and doesn't quite know what to do. And there's no like serious like storylines or major things going on to carry you through the season. It just kind of exists and then ends.
Yeah. Well, I think like it should have ended much sooner when Childish left and when Chevy Chase left. Like those are, as much as I don't like Pierce and as much as Chevy Chase kind of personally irks me for some reason, like he had a vital role in the group dynamic.
He did. That was not filled. And Childish Gambino, being able to do a joke and then cut to Donald Glover for a reaction shot is half the humor of the show because he did it so well.
Yeah, just like the little things. Like one of my favorite scenes that he did was when him and with the multiple timelines episode with the die. Where she's smoking weed in the bathroom and he goes, "Come on, Britta, I'm a man," and he takes out a cigarette thing and it's just like a candy cigarette. Just like
just opens the
just
tin,
how subtle that was.
Beats them a couple and then eats a candy cigarette. Yeah.
Yeah, just how like smooth it was and like there was no attention to it. Just phenomenal actor, but you lose that.
Yeah.
And then I mean he's pretty much like the heart and soul of the group. And then you lose Pierce, who's essentially the villain.
The villain without being too villainous, just the guy that you can use to add a little contrast and a little like coarseness to the group to show it's not all happiness and roses.
Yeah, and then you have at the end of the last season you lose Shirley, who
had her own coarseness to her that was different from Pierce, so she could add a little static if need be.
Yeah, and so you lost like.
I understand her exit either. Like it was a weak exit in my opinion.
Yeah.
Well, in reality, she had to leave so she could go to Atlanta to take care of her ailing father in real life. But they didn't write it out well.
No, right. Because what did they do? Was she moved to like Louisiana or something, and
something like I don't know.
Yeah, it was just a side mention. It was like, oh, she'll never come back.
Yep, basically. They brought her back for like one cameo later in the season, and that was about it.
Yeah, but so I mean, you essentially because there was 7 people, and you lose half of the originals, and you don't replace them with the same archetypes because you had like Keith David in there, and he's not a comedic actor.
He was whatever. He was very weird. And then I like Patrick Brewster, but her character was basically an adult Annie.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know if you guys realize this, but there's a lot of mini series shorts that Abad Danny Pudi did as Abad Nadir.
Abed?
Yes, Abed. There's at least 5 different little shorts that he did.
Okay.
So, FYI.
I didn't know that.
I haven't watched them. I go to the list of episodes on Wikipedia, and I see there's a bunch of mini episodes, but a lot of them are like commercials for the show, too, where they're like advertising one of the sponsors at the same time. Oh, the show did very well about working with their sponsors. The deals apparently a lot of sponsors cut was basically use this thing and then just do whatever you want. So they did really bizarro episodes where like Subway takes over the school and they're battling the sandwich shop. It's very strange.
Isn't the Honda episode?
Being a lifestyle brand consultant. Oh, it's so weird.
So,
I mean,
weird.
Even its lesser seasons are still better than some other shows that are out there that are still running. Like Big Bang Theory lost me after 2 seasons because it stopped being like jokes with the geeks and started being jokes about the geeks. Yeah.
Well, Community, even when it's bad, it's still pretty good. I mean, it's like pizza.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to say no if someone's like, hey, do you want to watch this episode of Community? There's not going to be one where I'm just like, nah, I'm good. So maybe we'll get a movie.
So, favorite Community character, and I already know the answer from you, Josh, but go ahead anyway.
Who do you think it is? I'm just curious.
Donald Glover's.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Well, but honestly, season 1, Senior Chang is my favorite.
When he's actually smart and kind of an asshole.
Yeah, just like some of the weird shit he does. Like I think it's in episode 2 or 3, where he's just talking weird, and he's like, he just kind of snaps. He's like, "You'll get bit." And then he just goes, and he's just like, please read chapter 3. And he just does like this weird passing like hand rub on some random student's cheek. Just weird shit like that. I don't know. It's just, it tickles my fancy.
Yes.
So.
B?
I already said who my favorite characters were. It's Abed and Troy, but together.
Troy and Abed.
Together, yeah.
In the morning.
Exactly.
Or Troy and Abed in the morning. Nights.
And Annie.
Yeah, that one with her trying to shove herself in was funny. Yeah. There were so many good running gags on the show. The Troy and Abed in the morning is one of the more famous ones. Hell, they sold mugs for that one. Becky.
Yeah, I'm pretty much with like B and Josh. It's like I love Troy and Abed. I love Troy and I love Abed. Like that whole thing together, separate. I dig it.
I'm going to go with Annie because I actually liked her character. I thought they did some interesting things with her sometimes. And she had added her own dynamic to it. But, I mean, also Troy and Abed together were phenomenal. And that was something the show missed as soon as Donald Glover left. They didn't really know what to do with Abed either at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He should have left on the boat with him, as much as I love Abed.
And that's something I wanted to mention, but we got, like, pulled away from it. If 4th seasons had still had Dan Harmon, I kind of feel like he would have taken the show in a different direction after 4th season. find a way to redirect it outside the college and do new things. Like, I feel him having to take it back to the college to, like, reorient everyone and figure out how to repair what fourth season did. And then he was stuck at the college after that because of just, writers just being written into a corner. Like, the last 2 seasons just didn't go the direction I think he wanted them to initially.
No, you know what I would have loved to see, personally?
Yeah.
Pierce die, obviously, because...
Yes.
But I would have loved to have, like, a weird subplot where Pierce gave LeVar Burton all of his money, but on the condition that LeVar Burton had to enroll in community college, and LeVar Burton becomes part of the group.
I would have watched that.
Oh
yeah, God, yes.
And an episode where didn't they have an episode where LeVar Burton was reading to someone?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Good. But it would have been better in a community series setting.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah, I think that goes in with, like, I would say one of my most favorite moments / quotes is when, Troy is just, like, rocking back and forth, singing, the Reading Rainbow song to himself, crying, and he's like, set phasers to love me.
That's no joke, Becky. That's my favorite Childish Gambino scene. That whole thing. Like, where they're eating salmon with one another, and he's just...
Yeah, and gosh, like, and now that we've actually met LeVar Burton, or at least Mike and I have, like, I feel that.
Me too. No, when we met LeVar Burton at I think it was Indie PopCon.
Yeah, that was where we met him.
Like, Josette was super excited, and we get up there, and she just starts ugly crying in front of him. She's like, I love you so much.
Wow, you guys! Wow, you guys are at least a generation behind me. So
yeah,
reading Rainbow, man, reading Rainbow.
Reading Rainbow.
It was one of those things where it's like, okay, you meet famous people, and it's always a crapshoot because obviously they're people, but it's like with
Gary
him,
Busey.
yeah, well, with him, it's like he was so genuine. Like, when he looked at you, you were the only person there with him. Like, that's how he made you feel. It was otherworldly. It was amazing.
Yeah. It was...
So
he was very down to earth.
Donald Glover was going through right then.
Yeah.
Josette literally did the same thing. and after that, I said, I was like, you can't disappoint a picture. Which is a line from the...
Oh, damn.
We thought it was funny. It was a gamble, and it paid off.
Oh gosh.
Anyway, so we talked this out then.
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, 6 seasons. Are we still hoping for a movie?
As long as they get Childish Gambino back, I think it'll be fine.
Well, he did that live episode with them more recently. The live table read.
Yeah, he did.
Which was really funny. He still has it. Like the webisode would still cut to him for those reaction shots, and he'd still be able to nail them. So, yeah, as long as he's on board, I think the movie would work.
Yes, I agree.
Mm-hmm. And then we can get some more Troy and Abed in the morning, and that's all we need.
That's really all anyone needs.
Yeah.
I mean, they honestly, like, with this whole, like, pandemic stuff, they should bring that back. Just have, them in a Zoom meeting, like, Troy and Abed in the morning, and just have little short, here's your little morning Troy and Abed thing for 5 minutes.
That'd be
they should.
Great. They should.
I would love that.
That's
John Krasinski did that with The Office, and look at him. He got paid.
Yeah. No, that is solid. They should totally do that.
Yeah. Also, before we cut, I just need to ask, just because I'm curious. We talked about our favorite character, but I want to know what people's favorite side characters are. Because there's a plethora of people to choose from.
Hello. I'm sure for everyone it's Magnitude.
Pop.
Pop.
That was mine.
Actually, I'm not a fan of Magnitude at all. I find it annoying. I'm sorry. I like the Dean.
Dean's
I would
funny.
say he's a main character.
Dean.
Yeah, he's a main character.
He becomes a main character by 6th season.
Main character. Yeah. I also like Fat Neil, who becomes larger than life Neil or something like that later.
Just Neil eventually.
Yeah.
Wait, what about like calling the other one Black Neil or something? I don't see the world through that kind of lens.
He's bald! And there's Garrett. He's kind of funny
Garrett's
sometimes.
okay.
Oh, yeah.
Garrett annoys me.
Yeah, I've known people like him, and it annoys me.
Yeah, no. Totally.
And I'm pretty sure they ended up marrying their cousin, too.
Ooh. I've noticed
just like
Starburns hasn't come up.
Starburns is okay.
Starburns.
No.
Yeah,
He annoys me too. I like Leonard. I like Leonard.
Leonard's
R.I.P. He died.
Did he really?
Oh.
Yeah,
Oh.
recently, didn't he?
Very
It was
recently.
Like in the last few months.
That's
Oh,
sad.
gosh. That does suck.
The movie won't be the same without him.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, no. For
But
me, I
Well, hold
like
on. In honor of Leonard.
Nice.
You're gonna say?
For me, even though, obviously when Troy left the show, for me, I lost almost all interest for it. But the guy that they brought on,
Professor
and I know
Hickey? Jonathan Banks?
the
sarcastic
guy who
criminology
the
teacher?
guy who was in Breaking Bad.
Yeah, that's exactly who I'm talking about.
Okay, cool.
Professor Hickey.
Yeah.
Professor Hickey. That's right.
like
I don't know people's real names usually, so. But yeah, it was. I dug him for whatever it was.
Yeah.
Usually, old guys just no. I just can't with them. But for him, it's just like he's so gritty and so like doesn't take no shits, doesn't give no shits kind of thing. Yet in there's a good heart. Like I don't know.
Yeah, I like this character too. I couldn't remember his name, that's why I never brought him up.
That was part of why 5th season worked as well as it did, was because even though they lost Pierce, they still had an old man to be bitter and grumpy. And 6th season, they lost him again and tried to replace him with Keith David, and Keith David didn't have that same kind of like grit to add to the group to keep the dynamic going.
No, he was wacky in his own way.
Yeah.
Jonathan Banks has been acting since 1974.
Does not surprise me.
Man, did you, Mike? Did you name your favorite side character?
Magnitude.
Oh, that's right. I forgot.
That's why Mike and I are BFFs, because we both like Magnitude. That's the prerequisite.
Great. Pop. I love that.
And also, Leonard and Magnitude's political debate.
Yeah, right.
Pop.
Anyway.
Well, I think we've ended this particular discussion.
Right where we needed to. Right where we needed to. So, this has been Not So Live from Asteroid G. I'm Mike Finkelstein.
I'm Josh Pop Schaefer.
I'm Queen Bee.
And I'm Rebecca Finkelstein.
And we will see you next time.